before I talk about the Andhra Pradesh community managed natural farming, we have to go backwards. It didn't come just like that. And also, every country, the context is different. So, things cannot be simply copied and pasted, you know that. But there are certain universal principles also in scaling up. What we can call as generic principles. So, the precursor to natural farming actually is a pilot project which was taken up in India in 95. It was part of a regional pilot where Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, all countries in South Asia. This was a pilot funded by the UNDP as a regional project. It was called the South Asia Poverty Alleviation Program, and which in turn was based on a declaration of the SAARC heads of state in Sri Lanka in 92. They said, why is poverty concentrated in South Asia and Africa? Because Southeast Asia had marched ahead. China had gone far ahead in eradicating poverty. So that was the question. And we should not depend on some imported models. What is there within South Asia? What can help develop a strategy for poverty alleviation? So, a team of experts from each country, very eminent people from each country, they looked at large scale transformation projects. The document prepared by these experts was adopted by the SAARC heads of nations as a strategy for South Asia for fighting poverty. This finds place in the Dhaka Declaration of 1993. So, like all declarations, then after the summit was over, it was just the report was lying somewhere. But then, thanks to some very eminent people in South Asia, Mr. K.R. Venugopal, who was Secretary to Prime Minister at that time, Secretary to Prime Minister of India, and Shri Shoaib Sultan Khan from Pakistan. So they lobbied with the UNDP, saying that why don't you take a regional project to see how true this, what the lessons are. So that's how UNDP came to support a pilot on large scale poverty eradication. In India, the pilot was chosen in Andhra Pradesh. 3 very backward districts of Andhra Pradesh: Mehboob Nagar, Kurnool, Anantapur. So like that, each country chose pockets for demonstrating this project. Is so universal in its appeal. First, it said that poor are highly capable. Poor do not require charity, but they face so many obstacles when they are trying to come out of poverty. So, given these obstacles, they fail. So, the way they can overcome obstacles is coming together. So, organizing themselves gives them that strength. 1 plus 1 is not 2, 1 plus 1 can be 11. So, organizing poor, organizing people is the first step, and that unleashes energy, hidden energy, to overcome these obstacles. If you overcome one obstacle, then you get more strength to go to a second obstacle. So, the actions, the collective actions, the success in overcoming obstacles builds the strength of the group. The second, and these are the lessons they learned from successful projects and what was not found in projects which failed. So, what is your belief about the poor? What is your core belief? Is it charity? Okay, they are poor, miserable, so I will just give a dole. Or do you believe that they are capable? So, they said those projects which believed in the strength of the poor, in the strength of the common man, strength of the citizen, and acted accordingly, were successful. So, belief about the capability of each living person, each human being. Then belief that organizing them unleashes their energy. And they said that even among the poor, there are champions. So, they are also poor, but then they still feel that they should go out of their way to help others in need. So, wherever they call them as the community diamonds. So, wherever these diamonds have been polished, have been utilized, are an essential part of the project, program, such programs have succeeded, which could be a NGO, could be government, could be a bank. And then that country should have pro-poor policies. They didn't say it, but my sense is it works better in democracies. So, because there is a assurance that there will be pro-poor policies. So, this is a framework they developed. And this also goes back to the empowerment that Paulo Freire talks about. So, it resonated very well with us, and of all the projects, the Indian project did very well. And the assumption of UNDP and the stalwarts at that time who brought this together was based on the success each country would scale it up. That didn't happen, but government of Andhra Pradesh decided to scale it up. And India was, I think India and one more country, I am thinking either Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, only two countries which built organizations of women. So, Andhra Pradesh model was very successful because women were organized. So, women self-help groups were organized, then they formed into federations. So, the whole document and later on our own documents talk of two different institutions. Organizations of the poor, which means self-help groups in our case, their federations, further federations, and there are organizations for the poor. So, these are external. So, the NGO, the bank, the government, they are required, but they should not dominate the work of the institutions of the poor. It is a very big risk everywhere, whether it is an NGO or government, invariably, because the power differential is such that they end up dominating. So, it is a continuous battle, but they made a distinction that institutions of the poor are different from institutions for the poor. And the success of the women self-help group model in Andhra Pradesh led the government of Andhra Pradesh to scale it up. And so 95, so 2000 was when this scaling up happened. And in fact, you will be happy to know it happened in this office only. We had this office 25 years ago. So this is the second floor, I used to sit on the third floor. So this office only. And we learnt many lessons from the UNDP. And the most important thing was the power of transformed women, the power of leaders, women leaders. Extraordinary power. Just can't even imagine that such power, such potential was always there and not utilized. And so we, when this UNDP pilot project ended, it had succeeded in organizing around 100,000 to 120,000 women. And I led this program for 10 years. And in that 10 years, we scaled up to 11.5 million women by the end of 10 years. It continued. I had a fantastic successor. So building the women's self-help groups was the starting point, enabling them to access resources from all institutions. So initially we started their accessing resources from the banks. So it's called the SHG Bank Linkage Program. And India was the only country where informal groups were recognized as corporate bodies. It doesn't happen, it's not there in other countries. So that's why we had microfinance institutions, the Grameen Bank, the BRAC and others in Bangladesh. But in India, the mainstream banks were given directions to lend to the poor through the women's self-help groups. So we enabled women to access loans from the bank and use it wisely, repay to the bank. So banks which were initially reluctant to give money, they were subsequently they were more than happy to give money to the women without any collateral. So that was the RBI instructions to them to lend without any collateral. And at that time the upper limit was I think 50,000 rupees, then it increased to 100,000 rupees, then went up to 500,000 rupees. So today, a women's self-help group in Andhra Pradesh can borrow up to 2 million rupees without collateral. So that means per capita they get around 200,000 rupees. Her husband, even by mortgaging the property they have, cannot borrow more than 50,000 rupees, 4 times. So that's the kind of space women could get in the household, within the household. Now, whether it translates to man-woman relationship is a different story. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen automatically. That's again another struggle. So while we were on the financial livelihoods, financial inclusion, then we, wanted to see where were they investing this money. Quite a lot initially was for meeting consumption needs, health requirements, education of their children. In the second round of borrowing, it was for agriculture. So 70% of the loan portfolio was in agriculture. And that's when we started looking at profitability of agriculture. Because if agriculture is not profitable, they can't come out of poverty. So in 2004, we initiated a program with the women's self-help groups and NGOs. There was a program called non-chemical pest management. because the women complained a lot of their money was going into chemical pesticides, fertilizers. So whatever they were earning, it was again going to the shop owners. So that's when around 2003-4 we got interested in this, and an NGO, particularly the Center for Sustainable Agriculture, CSA, they had succeeded in making one village free from chemical pesticides. Punukula, I remember that village. So then I invited them to discuss with us. After about two hours of discussion about how they actually did and the technology, then Dr. Sanghi, who was the head of that institution, he said, Vijay Kumar ji, technology बहुत simple है. वो मुश्किल था putting people together. Then I said, Sanghi sahab, putting people together is easy for me. I don't have the technology. So that's how we came together, that they provided the technical support, but the women self-help groups did the bringing people together, working with them to adopt these practices. So that's why, when agroecology is termed as a social movement, people, don't really understand this. Today we are successful only because of this foundation laid over, I would say, 3 decades now, where the women in all the villages are organized, they know their rights, they can act as a group to improve their well-being, they can also act to intercede on their behalf of their members. So with them we started the non-chemical pest management program, and it scaled up very quickly. So the kind of questions I get asked, why did farmers change? Do you need to give them some financial incentive? How long do you need to give financial incentive? We never gave any incentive. We went to them saying, look, this is good for you, this is the technology, are you willing to try? Are you willing to try in a small portion of your land? So this, whatever I did later, the origins are in this work we started in 2004. Because we had the organizations of women, this could spread very easily. So this social organization comes first before any technology intervention. Otherwise, it can just be confined to a research paper or some work happening in the research stations. So the social movement is a precursor. It can, somewhere you can have youth organizations, farmers organizations, but I believe there is some magic in women's collectives, and that's why they are most successful. So our program got seeded way back in 2004, and all this trial, error, improving the technology continuously, all that happened during that 7-8 years. Then from 2000, here we also helped the women to understand markets, because they were producing but then they were getting cheated in the marketplace. So post-harvest practices, understanding the market prices, understanding the grading, and ability to store and not to sell immediately. So all this marketing knowledge was again passed on to them through the women self-help groups. So we also had, so in scaling up, what helped was, our scaling up strategy was to use women who had benefited from being members of self-help group, whose lives had changed, and they were ready to take their lessons to other women. So these women from the original pilot, where work started in 95, so we picked champions from there and took them to other districts. And the same women went to other states in the country. So our women from Andhra Pradesh, which includes Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, have gone to all states in the country. Scaling up is through the people, by champions. Because the way they can communicate, the way they can inspire, nobody can do that. But we also realized that along with the champions, we also needed good professionals. So over this beginning of the project, we recruited 4,000 professionals. Murli was there recruiting all of them. 4,000 professionals. We said 1 per 2,000 women. Now many of them have retired, have joined me also. So 4,000. So it is development professionals and community professionals, community champions. So if you are able to have this, then scaling up happens, transformation happens automatically. For agriculture, again, best practicing farmers became the trainers. So we have a generic word for that, we call them as community resource persons. So then we looked at domestic violence issues. There also, initially we had lawyers, lecturers as our resource group members. Then we found they were not able to give time. Then we looked at survivors of rape, survivors of trafficking. So they became our trainers. So we had an amazing Aruna, and then earlier at that time Jamuna. So they put together a strategy for domestic violence. This is very difficult. Financial inclusion is easy, livelihoods inclusion is easy, but anything to do with intra-family, within the family, is the most difficult barrier. So our strategy was the women self-help groups, women federations own the intervention. They manage it. They have community professionals who are trained in this to help them to manage the intervention. And those who are very successful then become trainers who go to other geographies. So this template we could develop for how many? We had about 10, 11, 12. We had an insurance intervention, community managed insurance intervention, dairy.
27 layers of intervention.
Then we had around health, nutrition, education. We said any intervention, ownership by the women, support from government, initial incubation, trial and error, seeding, with the help of the best organization. Could be NGOs, could be government, could be a scientific institution. For the initial trial and error, it could take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It may fail, or something else may come out of that. So it gets absorbed by the community. Takes, depending on the intervention, initially it may take a longer time, 2-3 years, later on 1 year is enough. So this is the dynamic part. So there is a incubation or a seeding phase. This incubation seeding phase creates champions. And so this spot of incubation then becomes a training center. Then you have incubation in a new place. That becomes a training center. So it's like a viral scaling up. I stopped using the word viral after COVID, but otherwise I was very fond of this word. But because it happens in a very decentralized manner, driven by its own energy, etc. So that's how we could mount 10, 12 interventions on the basic institution of women self-help groups and federations. Then 2010 to 15 I was in Government of India, and that's when we had this Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana. So it took me about a year to develop the guidelines, etc. So based on work of SERP, based on work of Kudumbashri, based on Pradhan and others, Swaminathan Foundation. So we supported NGOs in other countries, other states. So agriculture can be done differently was tested in different states. I had a lot of problems even with Swaminathan Foundation. One particular meeting, their own staff were saying we can't eliminate chemical pesticides fully. So I had one young professional, her name is Swati, now she has won some award also in, so she argued, and Swaminathan was there in that meeting. She argued, she said, no, our guidelines are like this, can't use any, it's totally zero chemicals. Pradhan was saying it can't be done. Even now they are sheepish when they meet me. They said, no, we may have to use some chemicals. So a lot of mindset issues were involved. Here, of course, we had no problems because our own women had mastered it. And though initially the seeding happened through NGOs. So this is the background of, so our work didn't really start from 2015. There is this body of work from 95. So therefore, in any country, it's important to understand what kind of social movements were there, what is that glue, what binds people. It can't be top down like our ICR, we have given some protocols, everybody has to follow that. So it's not like that, it can't happen like that. It is, so this seeding methodology is very, very important. So in different countries, starting point is very important. So therefore, many countries have come to us. We have had about 45 countries visiting us from all continents, but essentially from Africa, then South America, Asia. So they are actually stunned by the social capital, and so the starting point has to be a partnership with people's organizations. Whatever be the technology developed by scientists or developed by us, it will not work. So with this, I came back to the state in 2015 as the Special Chief Secretary of Agriculture. Previously, I was doing this work from the Rural Development Department. SCRP was part of Rural Development. The National Rural Livelihoods Mission is part of the Ministry of Rural Development. So even in Andhra Pradesh, when I was doing this program, there was not much cooperation from the Agriculture Department. So then I thought heading the Agriculture Department is a good way to take this forward. And when I joined in 2015, it was a very bad year of droughts, a lot of farmer suicides happening, and in fact the Chief Minister was very keen on some long-term measures. There are of course the immediate relief measures that have to be given, but then he was looking for long-term measures, and then I proposed this as the intervention. In fact, as soon as I joined, I had my Commissioner Agriculture, all his technical people came to me. And then I asked them that, look, I believe this is a long-term solution. Do you have a better solution? Then I'll follow you. They came back in 2 days. They said, sir, we don't have any solution, we'll follow you. But that's more because I was the boss, not that they believed in this. So that was enough for me that, they'll not at least block this work. I made the same offer to the university also, my agriculture university. So these are the challenges. We are, we had to take it up because our state, Andhra Pradesh, one of the states with highest fertilizer consumption within the country, and also state with highest pesticide consumption in some of the districts, and also the birthplace of green revolution outside Tamil Nadu. We had the West Godavari, the Godavari district, where Professor Swaminathan also went several times to that district. So there are a lot of contradictions because the farmers had started believing that you can't take a crop without chemicals. So those who are doing it are some backward people, so not really. Do you want to go back to the 60s? You are living from hand to mouth, or living from one ship to another ship. So that was the immediate scare put out. But I was fortunate because there were some changes happening. People were able to see that the ill effects were visible from 30-40 years ago only. But in our state, there are some districts where with such heavy fertilizer, pesticide usage, a lot of instances of cancer and other very serious diseases. They were able to correlate it with the heavy usage of chemicals. So that's the context in which we started the program, and when we started this, we said we'll do a pilot. Pilot also is not a small pilot, large pilot, 700 villages, those who did well in the previous SERP program. So this vision statement I am saying now was not there in the beginning. I did it only to reduce the cost of cultivation, improve the livelihoods. The climate dimension was not very clear to me at that time. It was that extreme weather events are not in our hands. But then a lot of evidence was collected by our the World Bank. Also we had our own M&E studies. Nobody questioned whether organizing women into groups is good or not. I don't think anybody questioned that. It was taken for, it was assumed that it is a step in the right direction. But what it can, there is a lot of research in that also about microfinance. There is no shortage of research. But always the research in the social sector, for some reason, gets an inferior place, right? Physics is top class in terms of what is called the quality of research, integrity of the research. So that is the king of sciences. Then when it comes to life sciences, agriculture, health, it's a little muddled. It's not, because it's complex. Physics is also highly complex, but I am not denying that. But in terms of the way research is looked at, and the social research, is this research? So nobody thinks it's has any, not like this, not a causal. Things changed with the RCTs and others, which of course that's another extreme thing, I think. So there may be, for me the most important evidence is people adopting it, and if it is beneficial. If I am saying do something harmful and people are adopting, then it's dangerous. So to answer your question, there was no, let us say, this is a contested area. Conventional agriculture and also like a holy cow. Green revolution, scientists are gods, so nobody can question them. So So therefore, nobody even thought that anything else is worthwhile. But that's not true in the case of when the women's self-help groups were being formed. Nobody would say it is dangerous to the country, don't do it. So it's not like that. They may be saying, okay, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Like a lot of politicians, they said that, "Arey, what is this? We thought these women are only singing songs, and but then they made us lose elections." So one very major leader who lost elections because the women took up this anti-Arak campaign. So we thought these women are good for singing songs and meeting and gossiping and all that, but then we lost elections. So except that people would be skeptical. Okay, what can they do? Here it is different. It's a highly contested science. Yeah. So now I enter the yeah.
One small question.
Yeah.
Because you told the story and I think you told you started almost in 1995.
Yeah.
So now I have a lot of experience. So do you think any other country who is trying to
Yeah.
get in this bag, they can shorten this period based on
Definitely. See, my own work has reduced the learning curve for the country. In the NRLM, what we took so many years, Bihar for instance. Bihar, the work started in 2006, right? So they had the benefit of 11 years of our work. And Bihar today is a leading state in the women's self-help group movement. The Jivika program is very, very popular. And so 2006, so in about 2021, in about 15 years, Bihar was able to organize 10 million women. I got a call from them saying, "Sir, I have to tell you, program that you helped us, we have crossed Andhra Pradesh." I said, "Good, that's a good." So I can now say in a new country, new state तो ठीक है, अभी इंडिया में हर स्टेट में NRLM है, so women, 100 million women have been organized. I prepared my cabinet note in 2011. I had said we'll organize 100 million women. So in a new country, it will not take much time. But that, that vision should be there, that you should have the social coalition, the collectives of women, collectives of farmers, collectives of youth, to take this forward. This I call the demand side of the equation. The knowledge side is the supply side. There is supply side, demand side. So if you don't develop the demand side, but it should not take so much time. So we have the benefit of, so today if I go to a new country, I will do both together. It's not that we send only scientists and then they start doing some research. No, we won't do like that. Organizing people, and at the same time, in my opinion, it will accelerate things, because they can see themselves coming out of poverty very quickly with this. So it's not any state, any country can do this, and they'll not require that much time, but they will take some time, because the most important time is that of the policy maker, the mindset. That's the most difficult one. It may happen, may not happen also. The work on ground is very easy if you have the right kind of mindset. See, the key in our case was our belief in the capability of every person. If somebody is a PhD, somebody is just 10th class, so everybody is capable. So that's it. So it doesn't take 20 years in any other country. Yeah. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So I thought there's a lot of confusion on what is natural farming. So I want to clarify how Andhra Pradesh defines it. There is also a lot of confusion within the country also on what is natural farming. So worldwide, of course, there is even more confusion. Agroecology kya hai, natural farming, regenerative agriculture. So it may take another 10 years to resolve anything, or it may, the mess may. So we have a framework for defining this. And then what is the criticality of soil health? And then water cycle is also impacted by natural farming. But there was one doubt, one very strong objection from every group. They said, sir, this is an untested thing. If a farmer doesn't get yields, as we are thinking, then we should have a provision for compensation, yield loss compensation. Otherwise, our credibility is at stake. So all of them, department anyway was department, scientists, I could understand, but even the NGOs said we should provide this, and farmers also said. Then I said no, we will not provide any yield loss compensation, and that was a turning point for my project. Even now today, most of the programs in the country, half the money goes as direct benefit transfer to the farmer who is undertaking the transition. The project is over in 3 years. This DBT is transferred. Knowledge is not transferred. Right? And then they go to a new village. But instead we said that we advise the farmers that they don't have to believe us, but let them try in 1/4 of their area. You'll say we have done our best, but this technology is not good or something like that. So I said, you have to be on your toes. We have to continuously work to improve our technology so that the period of transition should actually be a opportunity, not a pain. Transition should not be a pain. Transition should be seen as an opportunity. And that is driving us all these years. Every year we have improved our methodologies. So we have to go deep into the science to understand better. So that was the third most important thing, was this. The fourth, this obsession with yields. We realized that many people wanted to change simply for health reasons. So first year I went to many such fields. I met one farmer. He says, sir, I'm tired of eating chemical food. Even if I get half the yield, fine. I know it is pure, it's safe. And the strangest reason for changing I found from one farmer. He noticed that his dog had stopped eating the rice that he had given. So he says, I had to put some rasam or sambar to hide the smell. Then I said, what is my life? I am eating what my dog is not eating. So he said, sir, that day I decided, and your people have come to the village, so I can, I could try. So this is the very important decision I took at that time, was that we will not offer any monetary compensation during the transition. We recognize that transition could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years, or even if it is longer, we support the farmer. And we also didn't promise any marketing premium. So, because if there's an expectation that if we change, then we'll get a market premium. Because whenever these farmers used to talk about premium, then there'll be other people who would be, they'll not speak at that time because they think the farmers will scold them. But when I'm leaving the village, they'll come and say, if this food becomes costly, how will we eat? So then I used to tell the farmers, look, your yield is going up, your costs are going down, crops are more healthy, then why do you want more money? So of course they had no argument, but still in their heart of hearts they knew that. Then they gave one more reason for which I had to accept. They said people should recognize that this is good food. They should not mix it with bad food. So we want recognition for that purpose. I said okay, that's a genuine reason, but don't expect premium. You expect a separate identity for yourself. And but generally our rule norm is there is no premium within the village. So they don't charge premiums within the village. If it goes outside, somebody recognizes as good food, then yeah, they can get some money. So I am saying this is a very important part of our decision or project strategy, that we didn't offer any compensation. So we can take a look at other countries whether they are offering some incentives and inducements. And I know everywhere they offer inducements.
They are offering not only even for premium price, they are developing so many strategies and plans.
Yeah.
It's not working because
Yeah.
nobody can guarantee the market.
Exactly.
They are working on it. So I'm really thinking that without any incentives, even premium price, if
Yeah.
you're looking to move the people, that is something
Yeah, that's right.
looks like impossible, but
Yeah.
it's done there.
No, see, I can't fool them. If I don't have any expertise in marketing, I can't say I'll give you premium. They'll say you buy it. My job is transforming the farmer, not finding a market. So I have to show enough benefit which comes without any premium. So that's why this is a very, very important part which we got clear right in the beginning. So now nobody asks me. And I used to scold the farmers also. I said, okay, it doesn't matter if out of 100, even 10 people join me, that's enough. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. So those 10 are enough for me. And so it's a very, very critical part, because then it puts me on my toes. I have to improve the technology. I have to ensure that there is no loss incurred by them during the transition. And we found, let us say in a village, typical village, out of 10 farmers in the first year, about 2 of them would have got higher yields in the first year and lesser costs. About 6 would have got lesser yields, but the cost reduction is lower. So they break even or they make more money. But there will be 2 people who would have got lower yields and costs reduction is not enough to compensate, they incurred a loss. But then when they sit, they can't blame me. You have done better. So nothing wrong with the technology, because it's knowledge intensive. And farmer has to put the time in the field. Many farmers who did well, they told me, sir, you please pass a rule that like you are doing 8 hours in your office, you pass a rule that every farmer should spend 8 hours in the field. Because he says the plants are talking to me. If I don't spend time in the field and then expect a miracle, it won't happen. So that's the importance of this particular set of beliefs with which I started this. And I think this is one of the important and also when I did the work in NPM, for me it wasn't a big deal, because when I did the work in 2004-05, I never offered any compensation. So that's how I found it strange that these people are asking me that we should provide compensation. I said, Kyun bhai, why should we do that? So I didn't take it that seriously. I said that anyway I have done it earlier, so this is not nothing great. So this, for anybody starting, what people require is hand-holding support, technology support, backstopping support, and not leaving the village in 3 or 4 years. Because the project budget is enough for 3 years. For DBT, they distribute half the budget in money transfer, half of it in some inputs, very little of extension support. And then they have gone to a new village. So once they leave, these people will go back to. So I said it has to have intrinsic merit. It may not come out in the first year. Let it come out in the second. It's a graduation process. So first year you get X benefit, second year X plus delta plus something else, like that. So it's a graduation process. It is dependent on the farmer's willingness to put in that effort, farmer's ability to acquire knowledge. So this is very, very important. Only once I discussed, after that I never discussed this. A lot of farmers used to ask me, I said, no, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. There will be other farmers who will do it. So I am emphasizing this because I feel that everybody else is doing the reverse, because they don't have faith in themselves. If you don't have faith in yourself, then what kind of program are you running? Then you know very well we are dealing with small and marginal farmers. 86%. So we have farmers, 20% farmers who have just half acre and less, other 30% farmers who are up to 1.25 acres, half hectare, and about 30% who are up to 1 hectare, 15% who are between 1 and 2 hectares, and just 5% who are about 2 hectares. So our entire project strategy is for that 95% people who are having less than 2 hectares, of which more than 50% are less than 1 acre. So this strategy also is contextual. That particular farmer's ability, their holding. So it automatically, if other countries are having large holdings, this whatever practices we have will not straight away be applicable. Strategies also will have to change. So that's why context is very important, not only the physical context but also the context of the farmers. Huh? Yeah. So first year I said 40,000. This was the difficult year actually. First year, then second year. So first 2 years were till 17, 18 we had some issues. So after that it got straightened out. So today we have footprint in 30% villages, and we have covered 17% farmers and 8% area. And you see the figure there, just go back to the previous one. Yeah, 350,000 landless farm workers. So that's also an important part of our strategy. Funding comes from government, and but I must mention about philanthropy. Azim Premji Foundation, even before we started the project, even before the results came, they gave me a grant of 100 crores. They said, we know you will do something, use it for debottlenecking, use it for whatever you want. So that is a very important part. And Co-Impact is our latest supporter. So they are asking us to make this as a part of make it mainstream. So what's called a system change. So from an outlier to become mainstream. So that's what, so various interventions we are doing for that. Yeah, next. Yeah, this I don't have to tell you, we have multiple emergencies, farmers, consumers and environment. Next. This is very important. This is from the Stockholm Resilience Center, the planetary boundaries. And so out of 9 planetary boundaries, we have crossed 6 planetary boundaries, and out of which 5 of them we have crossed on account of our current agri-food system. So that, and there's a very recent appeal from Johan Rockström also, saying that now scientists have become very pessimistic. Nobody is listening to them. And so this is one of the most important frameworks that we have. Not just CO2 emissions, but this is the real framework to know where we are. And I believe very strongly that we have solutions to all these planetary boundaries. We can keep all these planetary boundaries in limit, and also the ocean acidification also can be, we can find a solution through this work. Yeah, next. So, just a reiteration of the emergency. So, India has a soil emergency where we lose about 5 billion tons of soil per year, or 16 tons of soil per hectare per year. So, we need a agriculture intervention which helps build the topsoil, not something which continues with the erosion of soil. Next. Water emergency, IWMI should know better. So we are in a serious mess as far as water, but we have a fantastic solution for water. You'll be very happy to know of that. So this is a statement which says that farmers are facing the brunt of climate change, but the way they are doing farming is causing climate change. So that is the irony. So we need food to survive, but the way we are producing food is ensuring that we don't survive. That is the dilemma. And because of various other factors, deforestation, forest fires, ploughing, keeping lands fallow, irrigation, chemicals, etc. Next. So, farming in harmony with nature is a solution to these multiple emergencies. So, what is natural farming is essentially method of farming which mimics nature. And as you know, life on planet Earth starts with photosynthesis, and that's how soils have been created. Next. So, yeah, this is a very important slide. The next two slides is that natural farming is not the same as traditional agriculture. The biological inputs that we use in natural farming, small quantity, they are not the source of nutrients, NPK. And it's a very serious statement because initial years, ICR used to spend all its time in analyzing NPK in Jivamruta, various inoculums. So even though I told them, and now they are listening, but at that time they would say there is no nitrogen in your through natural farming. Then I said, how do the crops come? So they are getting nitrogen from somewhere. So this is a very important part. It's not traditional agriculture. Traditionally, our forefathers used to use some 10-12 tons of organic manure per acre, but we need only 5% of that, but not as manure. So that is the most important point, and that's what is not generally understood. And natural farming, as I said, mimicking nature, it is basically a holistic view of sunlight, plants, soil microbes, elements in soil, water and air. Now, there are Indian pioneers who understood some of this intuitively, and particularly Subhash Palekar, he didn't get the full science, but he is the first one who said that this is not traditional agriculture, who said that there is no shortage of nutrients, but we need this little bit of biological inoculum to trigger something happening below the earth. So then from 2015 onwards, we've been looking at what is the rest of the world doing? What is the science behind natural farming? Next slide. So these are our leaders who have inspired us. So Elaine Ingham, Walter Ianna. In fact, Walter Ianna is associated with our work, and it's also linked to the water question. So, also I would also like to say, and this should be emphasized, that this research is new. This is not research which Swaminathan had knowledge of or Norman Borlaug had knowledge of when they were working on the Green Revolution part. This is 25 years old, 25 to 30 years old. There was some research which happened before World War II, but the research now takes advantage of microscopy, various other new innovations. So this is actually new science. This is not traditional agriculture, and it's not just practices put together. There's a lot of science, and in fact the research of James White is hardly 4 or 5 years old. These breakthroughs are not known to many people even in USA. So around 2020, 21, and we have taken advantage of that finding. I have given presentation to many scientists. None of them have heard of this. Not only in India. Yeah, next. So this is the basis of whatever we are doing. So photosynthesis is the basis of life, and plants are converting water and CO2, combining them into sugars. Solar energy is triggering this, is enabling this to happen. So solar energy is getting converted to food energy. But 40% of the food produced is stored in the shoot system. 30% is used by the roots, but 30% is exuded. And this is what nature does, nothing to do with human beings. This is, Mother Nature's doing. We are just observing what they do. Next. So this root exudates, and with a purpose. So these root exudates are food for the microbes, and there are many layers of living creatures below the soil. So this term soil food web was coined by Elaine Ingham in 2004, I think, 2004 or 2005. And she is still an authority. She runs a school also, training people around the world on the soil food web. So the microbes, the bacteria, the fungi, they take the food given by the plants and they make all other nutrients available to the plants, whether it's nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, boron, zinc. Every plant requires 40, 50, 60 nutrients. Some of them in very small quantities. And I must, tell a small joke here. I was Vice Chancellor of my university. I asked my professors, all the professors, as to how many nutrients a plant takes. The highest number I got was 18. They call 18 essential nutrients. I said, all total nutrients kitna hai? Nobody went beyond 18. Then I said, how many nutrients are there or how many elements are there in a human body? They didn't know. So then I told them 59. So they have to come from the food you eat. If the plants are producing only 80 nutrients, where do you get the balance? So that is the level of ignorance on this part, because we shut our minds, okay, NPK, and then that's the end of the agricultural revolution. So this is the beauty of nature, that if the soil biology is good, then you get all the nutrients at the right time and right quantities. So this is how the soil food web works. Next. So this enables efficient nutrient absorption. But there is another role that the microbes play, and that is the engineering part, the soil physics. So they are responsible for the soil structure. And good soil structure means better soil porosity, more carbon in the soil, means greater water holding, and of course, good soil biology also leads to higher soil carbon sequestration. Next. Now, this is about the soil structure. So, if you can see, our soils are impermeable, but the root exudates the action of the bacteria, the fungi in creating soil structure is very, very critical, and this leads to better water infiltration, better water holding. But the third element is our new discovery, water vapor being harvested for irrigation. I will explain that in other slides. Next. So, based on the science, based on the way Mother Nature works, and I have also drawn from regenerative agriculture practices in rest of the Australia, USA. So, the first principle, because the plants are feeding the soil. So, the first principle is soil to be covered with crops 365 days of the year. So, if you maximize photosynthesis, then you are pushing more food into the soil, and then the magic happens. But it's important that these should be diverse. The crops should be diverse crops. So, different functional groups. So, monocropping is very inefficient. So, crop diversity is a very important and a very critical principle in our framework. The third one is to keep the soil covered with crop residues whenever living plants are not there. This is also to reduce evaporation losses, to reduce soil temperature, and also to some of it will go as nutrients. Actually, as you know, the biomass of any plant, 97% is basically carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, which comes from the air, and nitrogen another 1.5%, let us say, that is also coming from the air. So, what goes back to the soil is also some 1% or 1.5% of that biomass. So, it is not meant for soil fertility, it is basically meant for reducing evaporation losses. The fifth one is about farmers, fourth one, to minimize the disturbance, minimize tillage, no disturbance of soil. Fifth is very important, farmers' own seeds to be used, and this goes against the basic tenet of Green Revolution, where entire science was captured in the seed, and so the soil was just supposed to be a medium. Now, this work, and why we are saying so confidently, is based on the work of James White. Just please go back. Yeah. No, next one. Yeah. So, what he found, and he called this rhizophagy. Of course, the term was coined by scientists in Australia, but he has really given a proper meaning to this. So, he found that the bacteria, the fungi are not only on the root surface, but the roots have ingested them. So, they have gone into the roots, and the roots are basically squeezing these microbes, taking the nutrients and then spitting them out. And then these poor microbes, they reform and then they go back into the root. So, this is called rhizophagy. So, this is a way in which the plants are taking nutrition. So, one sense, all plants are carnivores. So, those who think, we should eat only vegetarian, so please know that plants themselves are carnivores. Then, plants are very clever. So, they pick up those microbes which are important for their survival in that area and take them into the shoot system. Then they take these microbes into the leaves, the flowers, the fruit and the grain. So, I don't know whether he has coined it, somebody else, but it's called core microbiome. So, every seed has millions, some seeds have billions, 5 to 10 billions of microbes in them. And so, what we are actually seeing is epigenetics. depending on how you nurture, the genetic expression changes. So it's a very important, part of why natural farming does the magic. We have done a lot of research on this now. Next. Yeah, previous one, yeah. The sixth is a very simple one, integrating animals into farming. Seventh is biostimulants are not fertilizers but are catalysts to trigger soil biology to take advantage of the root exudates. And pest management through better agronomical practices and botanical pesticides. And the last principle is a red lettered one, no synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, etc. Yeah, next. Rest are illustrations. Yeah, next. So this is a very important inoculum, which is the seed inoculum, Bijamrutam. So it's a microbial coating of the seed. So it's cow dung fermented for about 12 hours, then mixed. This fermented liquid is mixed with urine, lime, and sprinkled on the seed just before sowing. So the seeds are getting a coating of microbes. So now what is happening? The microbes on the seed coat are talking to the microbes inside the seed, and they are talking to the microbes in the soil. So there is a beautiful communication system established to enable the plants to germinate well, to prevent attacks on the plants. So this is very, very important. Next. So this is another inoculum. This is called Ghana Jivamrit, about 400 kilograms per acre. This is applied along with the seed. So the seed and this go together, and the seed has knows that it is in a good, safe world. The microbial world within the seed, in the soil, enables better growth. Next. This is after germination. So 20 days after germination, there is a foliar spray of Drava Jivamrita, which is a liquid spray, which helps the plant growth. And there is a foliar spray, because now we know that even leaves are playing their role in the microbial processes. And in the reproductive phase, we have Panchakavya and others, which are tonics. Next, the botanical pesticides. So this a little bit on the impacts. So we do independent crop cutting experiments to look at the impacts. Next. Then we have improved biodiversity. All the reports are available. All our crop cutting experiments, socio-economic benefits of that are available. So we see improved biodiversity. Yeah, next. We see reduction in water consumption. It's very important. So greater pest resilience also. Next. Yeah, this is about water. So this is a global average of what happens to 100 raindrops falling on the soils. So 2 drops are stored in all the big dams of the world. 12 drops in the streams. 36 drops constitute what we can call as green water going inside the soil, taken by the roots and then transpired. But 50 drops are what are getting, I can say, wasted, runoff, evaporation. And these are molecules are small hazes, so they don't form clouds. So they are in the air, and that's what is leading to global warming. So through natural farming, through natural farming, keeping green cover, we are able to minimize runoff losses and better water percolation, greater water holding. But the new phenomenon is harnessing water from the air. That is our contribution. Next. So in tropical countries, water in the air is a very significant quantity, up to 50,000 parts per million, which is like 10 times the water in all the rivers. So my idea was, how do I get few drops every day? And this is where I was inspired by Walter Yana, Australian climate scientist, soil microbiologist. So he described how regenerative agriculture changes plant physiology. You saw the cell structure there is different. And he says, in xerophytes, in deserts, you have cacti. So they are growing there is no rainfall. So how do they grow? So he believes very strongly, and that's lecture he gave in 2016, which we tried in 2018, and we were successful. And so this is the new water paradigm that we are talking about. Next. That's Walter Yana, who came in 2019, spent 12 days with us explaining the science. Next. Yeah, the lecture he gave in Niti Ayog. He said that the fields that he visited, there was already a biomass of 12 to 15 tons per hectare, and if you take 1 liter is 1 gram biomass. So he says that biomass has already consumed 15,000 tons of water. Rainfall had only contributed to 4,000 tons. So you can't deny it, it's there. But you have to figure out how the water came. Next. So he spent about 4 days brainstorming with us. We still have not understood this fully. So we are now asked University of Reading and others to help us. But one part he said, after germination, there is some water coming before the germination from soil surface through the bioinoculum that we have put. But after germination, he says these leaves are hygroscopic. So there is more of cytoplasm, less of vacuoles. And what Phil Lee also mentioned, greater turgor pressure. That also happens when the cytoplasm is filled, cells are filled more with the cytoplasm rather than water. So the leaves of chemical agriculture are hydrophobic. So we are now requesting him to help us in conducting this research, because this will really solve a lot of water issues. Now, based on this knowledge, we started seed pelleting so that we can do dry sowing. We don't have to wait for monsoons. So we are trying to liberate the farmers from monsoons. जितना भी आता है bonus है. So I am saying your sowing is when you harvest a crop, not wait for monsoons. So this is a big. So this leads to seed pelleting. So these pelleted seeds can be in the ground for 3 months, 4 months. Even if there is no rainfall, nothing happens. They germinate once. First year I remember a farmer who had done this sowing in February, and unfortunately that year there was no pre-monsoon rainfall till May. So he forgot that he had sown the seeds. And then he says, suddenly my field is green. So this is now, we have taken it to all our villages. So we don't want any field to be left fallow. Next. This is again desert-like, it's actually a desert. So we can green a desert through natural farming. This is Anantapur. This is because we are getting a visitor from Sharjah. He is a nephew of the ruler. So he said, can you show me something that can help me in Sharjah? So I said, I'll take you to a place which is just like Sharjah. So he came to Anantapur, went to this village. And this is the first crop there, just 3 months after his visit. Next. Yeah, these are all the international research organizations working with us. So, of course, Walter Yana is a very important mentor for us. And C4 ICRAF works very closely with us. and of course CGIR, we are part of the agroecology living landscapes, and we are getting Potsdam Institute of Climate Change to come and look at our work. Next. Then we have all the ICR institutes working with us. This collaboration has just started. So we have asked them for long-term trials, 3 years in farmers' fields. I said, I will not fund anything you do in your research station, because I don't know what you are doing. But anyway, it's your mandate to do work in your research station, I won't fund it. But you do comparative trials, and we have about 15 to 18 parameters being studied, and not just yields. We are also doing a water study, which is very important. So, crop water requirement, we want to recalibrate. Next. Then we have a new academy. So, this is with a grant of 20 million euros from Government of Germany. State government has given us land, buildings and budget. Next. Now, based on our water harvesting from the air, so we have developed this A grade crop models. So that's why my heading says farmers' prosperity, not just livelihoods, prosperity. So our idea is, can a farmer earn 3 to 5 times incomes from farming? And that is what this A grade crop models are demonstrating. Like you saw the maize crop, it will have 4 to 6 associated crops and about 25 biodiversity crops. Now, this is very interesting. We are now saying you don't need biopesticides also. So, we are saying the pest also needs to live, but not damage too much. So, don't panic if there is a pest. And the pest should be killed by those who are designed to eat it, not by human beings, because we are destroying the predators actually. So, there is a study by Professor Lundgren. He says there are up to 1300 predators for a pest. 1300. So, pest should actually be scared to take birth because there are so many predators. So, what we have done is we have destroyed the predators. So, this is a very new innovation. This innovation is about 3 to 4 years old. Last year we decided to scale it up in all the districts. This is a very, very important one. After 5 years, this will become our norm. So, every farmer should reach this level. I mean, that will be our norm. So, when I said dynamic technology, this is one of the examples. Because of pelleted seeds, we don't have to wait for the rainy season to start. And those 4 or 5 crops, their seed rate is the same as if it is a sole crop. Next. So, this is our target income, 25,000 rupees per month, per family. And next. This is an example of a cotton. So, you have cotton, but you also have food grains there. Cowpea, pearl millet, cluster bean, okra, then trap crop, castor and biodiversity crops. So, again here we have diverse crops. Can you go to the next slide? So, the previous one. Yeah. No, next. That's all, yeah. So, there we have 5 different seeds there. No ploughing. So, just scooping the earth, and the distance is 3 feet from one pit to the other. So, alternating between red gram and castor, and then you have pearl millet, field bean, cluster bean. So, 5 different crops with different characteristics. So, this is a drought proofing model. We are testing it, and we are also looking at some of the examples from Africa, where they have this half moon models as part of regreening the Sahel. Yeah, next. So, this is a lady, nobody in that village got a crop except her. This is our plan for the next 5 years. Next. Yeah, this I already explained, right? Our scaling up. This was what I had done in the beginning. Next. So this is the role of women self-help groups. And in our project area, we have close to 2 million women who are organized. And they also provide the financing for the individual transition. So I forgot to mention that we don't finance individual transitioning also. So whatever capital cost they have for transitioning, we don't give any money. So they have to borrow from the group or they have to put in their money. So the women self-help groups, they help each other, and there are some recalcitrant husbands so who argue against it. So in such cases, all the 10 women go to that house to counsel the husband, to understand his difficulty in following his wife. So invariably, the wife has won. So whether 6 mahine mein the husband changes, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it's a matter of time, but 100% victory. So she has a strength, she's not alone. If she has to get some support, she can go to her group. So this is why this is so important. Because we are trying to do something new, your neighboring farmer will laugh at you. So this strength, this counter strength, the centrifugal force has to be countered. Next. And this I mentioned, the community resource persons. I started with around 800 people, now we have 10,000. This is really those two are our pillars, women and the champion farmers. Even among them, 50% are women. The trainers are basically women. Next. This I told you we take about 8-10 years for each village. We don't, even the first village we started in 2016, we are still present there. And that village actually is a source of very good human resources for us, for the rest of the project. And I try all my innovations in such villages first. Next. So these are the basic paradigm shifts. This is a conclusion. Soil is a living entity, not a mere substrate. And plants feed the soil, not the other way. Then crop diversity is critical. They are not there is no competition. See, because we thought that we are feeding the plant, so we said only monocrop, because you don't want weeds, you don't want other crops. But now we know that crops are feeding the soil, so as much diversity is possible is welcome. Then nutrient acquisition is not straightforward. It's not just the soluble inputs. Even the microbial mediated process is again diverse. You have rhizophagy, the role of endophytes. Next. And all plants fix nitrogen. So again, only legumes fix nitrogen is a myth. Then weeds. So, spraying weedicide is not a correct method. If you enrich the soil, if the soil, bacteria fungal ratio, the fungal bacteria ratio is 1:1. Then weed intensity comes down drastically. And then there is a new water paradigm that plants are not mere consumers of water, but also produce water. So, and pest management, we are now moving to zero methods. Have crop diversity, let some plants go, doesn't matter, because you are getting over yields. So even if you lose 10%, nothing happens. And now new science is showing some amount of pest attack is good to bring out the true characteristics of that plant. So an experiment in France showed that grapes are sweeter if the plants are attacked by pests. And somewhere in which country, one of the South American countries, they showed coffee tastes better if that plant has been attacked by pests. So only in relation to stress, the plant is producing chemicals. Yeah. Next. So this is my statement that, food and nutrition security is possible only through natural farming. Next. Yeah, this is the last slide. When I said cooling the planet. So 365 days green cover. If we do it everywhere, acre by acre, this is the best climate solution. So what I started for livelihoods of the farmers is ending up in actually saving the planet. Yeah. Thank you.